Somewhere between your 10th thought about what you said in that one conversation last week and your sleepless scroll through every possible future scenario that will probably never happen, something inside you whispered, "Please, stop." But it didn't. And that's the thing. Overthinking feels like control, but it's actually the complete opposite. It's a form of paralysis, camouflaged as logic. And yet, what if I told you the root of overthinking isn't in your mind at all? Stay with me, because this might just change how you experience your own thoughts forever. There's a moment most people won't talk about. It's that tiny, private second when your brain loops the same fear for the 100th time, like it's trying to save you. But all it actually does is tighten the knot in your stomach. You look fine on the outside. You smile. You nod. But inside, you're spiraling through possibilities and second-guessing the life right in front of you. Now here's what's wild. Overthinking isn't just about anxiety. It's not just about decision fatigue, or being too logical, or caring too much. According to Swiss psychoanalyst Carl Jung, it's way deeper. He suggested that what we label as overthinking might actually be a symptom of something much more profound, a disconnection from the unconscious self. Jung didn't believe the mind was just neurons and thoughts bouncing around. He saw the psyche as a vast, symbolic ecosystem, one that stretches way beyond what we consciously know. And in that space, he said, lived the shadow, the parts of ourselves we hide, suppress, or ignore. Here's where this flips your whole understanding. Jung believed that when we ignore the shadow, when we suppress parts of our true self to fit in or avoid discomfort, we create internal conflict. Our thoughts don't multiply because we're overanalyzing. They multiply because we're avoiding something. The noise in your head is often a distraction from the deeper whisper of your soul saying, "Hey, I'm still here. You haven't listened." Think about that. What if overthinking is less about being stuck in thought and more about being disconnected from feeling, from intuition, from presence, and from inner truth? This isn't some abstract woo-woo idea. It's grounded psychology. Jung taught that the psyche seeks wholeness. And when we deny parts of who we are, our fear, our anger, our desires, we split, we fragment, and the mind races to fill that gap. So maybe the real question isn't, how do I stop overthinking? Maybe it's, what am I avoiding by overthinking? That's just the surface. Because here's the part that gets overlooked in 99% of modern mental health content. Jung didn't believe you eliminate overthinking. He believed you integrate what it's trying to show you. In this video, I'm going to reveal exactly how Carl Jung believed we could reclaim our peace, not by silencing thoughts, but by befriending the unconscious. It's practical, powerful, and it might just shift how you live inside your own head. Before we continue, if you're someone who loves expanding your mind and exploring the deeper layers of life, make sure to subscribe to Fractal Wisdom. This space is for thinkers like you. So, overthinking isn't just mental noise. It's a signal, a message from your unconscious saying, "Hey, there's something in here you haven't looked at." And that's not to scare you, it's to empower you. Because here's the secret that Carl Jung hinted at again and again in his work. Your unconscious mind isn't your enemy. It's actually your oldest, wisest ally. It just speaks in symbols instead of sentences. And when you're stuck in overthinking, it's usually because you're trying to solve a soul-level question with surface-level logic. That's like trying to water a tree by misting its leaves. it's not gonna work. Now, let's unpack this. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That line? It hits different when you've been lying awake at 2 a.m., mentally rehearsing conversations that never happened. So why can't we think our way out of overthinking? Because thought is only a sliver of the full self. It's the tip of the iceberg. Beneath it lies emotion, memory, instinct, trauma, archetype. All the rich inner layers that our rational mind tries to flatten into yes, no, good, bad, right, wrong. But the psyche doesn't work like that. In Jungian terms, the mind has multiple personalities or voices inside. There's the ego, our conscious identity, but there's also the anima and animus, our inner feminine and masculine energies, the persona, the mask we wear, and the shadow, the parts we hide. When these are at war or ignored, we spiral, and our thoughts start circling like vultures around unresolved tension. Overthinking in this light is often the ego trying to solve something that needs to be felt, accepted, or integrated, not controlled. So how do you know when you're in that loop? Let's name a few signs. Your thoughts repeat but never resolve. You crave control over uncertain outcomes. You catastrophize or run through endless what-ifs. You think in rigid binaries: success, failure, love, rejection, safety, danger. You feel mentally exhausted but emotionally numb. These aren't flaws. They're signs. Indicators that something deeper is trying to come through. But the ego doesn't know how to process it. And of course it doesn't. It's just a survival mechanism. It was built to navigate social roles and avoid shame. But yourself, with capital S, doesn't need to overthink. It already knows. It's just waiting for you to listen. Jung's solution wasn't to kill the ego or silence the mind. It was to balance it with what he called the self, the totality of the psyche, including the unconscious. This isn't just psychobabble, it's a map. When you start recognizing that your anxious thoughts might be echoes from forgotten feelings, when you see your inner critic not as a villain, but as a wounded protector, something shifts. You begin to soften, to witness instead of judge. This, Jung believed, is how we become whole, not by fixing what's wrong with us, but by bringing into light what's been hidden. So if you're someone who overthinks, you're not broken. You're just deeply awake in a world that rewards disconnection. And now we'll explore how to translate these unconscious signals into insight, and how you can stop spinning in your mind by returning to your body and inner wisdom. It's not about more willpower, it's about more presence. Here's what Carl Jung truly believed. Your thoughts, your dreams, your even random anxieties, they aren't just mental clutter. They're messages, symbols, archetypes, clues in the language of the unconscious. The mind speaks in logic, the soul speaks in symbols. If you're stuck in thought loops, chances are you're not just thinking, you're receiving, but the message is coming through static. You can't hear it clearly. And here's where Jung's work becomes something much more than psychology. It becomes a form of spiritual alchemy. Jung developed a practice he called active imagination. And no, it's not the same as daydreaming. It's more like inviting the unconscious into a conversation. You sit with a feeling or a recurring thought, and instead of analyzing it, you give it a form. You ask it questions. You let it speak. You might close your eyes and visualize the fear in your chest as a character, a creature, a storm, a child, a wolf. Then you dialogue with it. What do you want me to know? Why are you here? What are you protecting me from? Sounds strange? Sure. But this is exactly what Jung meant when he said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That process isn't mental. It's imaginative, symbolic, embodied. Active imagination is how the unconscious teaches us. Not in facts, but in stories. Not in steps, but in scenes. And for people who overthink, this tool is a miracle, because it moves you from the head into the realm of meaning, where the ego relaxes and the self can emerge. Let's take an everyday example. Say you're obsessively thinking about a conversation where you felt judged. Replay, replay, replay. Now, instead of analyzing every word, pause, breathe. Visualize that moment as a scene in a play. Who's on stage? What's the lighting like? Who does your inner critic resemble? Your dad? A teacher? Yourself at 14? Now, ask that inner critic what it's afraid of. Chances are, the answer will not be about that one conversation. It might be about rejection, or abandonment, or feeling unseen. And that's the power of symbolic thinking. It bypasses the noise and goes straight to the source. Jung called this individuation, the journey of becoming whole, not perfect, not calm all the time, but whole. That means integrating the lost, forgotten, even unwanted parts of you, because those are often the ones driving your thoughts from the back seat. Now here's the spiritual layer most people miss. In many wisdom traditions, from Taoism to Advaita to mystic Christianity, the goal isn't to conquer the mind, it's to return to presence. And presence doesn't mean silence, it means listening differently. Overthinking thrives in resistance, but in awareness, it softens. When you stop trying to solve your thoughts and start witnessing them, something opens up. A space, a stillness. You're no longer the storm, you're the sky it's passing through. Jung would say that's the self making itself known, not by thinking more, but by feeling into what's already here. So now we know, overthinking isn't cured by clarity, it's transformed by connection, to self, to symbol, to soul. Now that we've explored the roots of overthinking through Jung's eyes, let's talk about peace. Not the kind you get after checking every box and solving every problem. I'm talking about a peace that holds space for mystery. A kind of inner stillness that doesn't come from control, but from integration. This is where Jung's path really begins to feel like a spiritual teaching, because the final stage of moving beyond overthinking isn't about understanding every thought. It's about no longer needing to. One of Jung's lesser-known but most profound ideas was that neurotic suffering, like compulsive overthinking, is often caused by a split within the self. He called this being at war with one's own soul. Most of the time, we assume stress comes from outside. Deadlines, relationships, uncertainty. But what if the real tension is coming from within, from opposing parts of ourselves pulling in different directions? Maybe one part of you wants to follow your intuition. Another part wants to stay safe and logical. One side wants to speak up. Another says, be quiet, don't rock the boat. This internal tug of war creates noise, conflict, and thought loops. And unless we bring these parts into dialogue, they'll keep screaming over each other, and you'll keep mistaking that noise for just how your brain works. But your mind is not the enemy. It's just waiting for leadership. And the leader? is the self, not the ego. And here's where everything flips. The moment you stop trying to solve yourself and instead begin to hold yourself, every part, every contradiction, every half-formed feeling, that's when things change. This doesn't mean giving up or being passive. It means becoming the container that's big enough for your whole experience. Jung often referenced ancient mandalas, circular symbols of wholeness, as representations of the integrated self. Not perfect, just complete. When you hold space for the thinker, the dreamer, the shadow, the child, the warrior, the healer, all inside you, you stop identifying with just one. And when you're no longer trapped in one voice, you can finally hear the deeper silence underneath them all. That silence is your baseline. That's the peace. Here's something you can try today. It's simple, but not easy. The next time you catch yourself spiraling in thought, pause, not to resist, but to witness. Then ask yourself, what part of me is speaking right now? What does it need? Is there another voice I've ignored? Don't answer like a quiz. Let it come intuitively. Write it down if you need to. Then respond, not with judgment, but with presence. That's how you begin the internal conversation Jung talked about. That's how you create unity, not silence. The ultimate truth is, overthinking often begins as a survival tool. But healing begins when we no longer need to survive ourselves. Jung didn't offer quick fixes. He offered pathways, beautiful, messy, human ones. And if you've made it to this point in the video, that means you're not just looking to stop the thoughts. You're ready to meet the thinker. And that's where everything changes. Let this be your takeaway. You are not your thoughts. You are the spacious, conscious presence around them. And the more you come home to that self, the less your mind will feel like a battlefield, and the more it will become what it was always meant to be, a bridge, not a burden. So, if this video brought you clarity, or even a small shift in how you relate to your inner world, consider sharing it. Because we live in a world where too many people are trapped in their own heads, quietly begging for peace they don't know they deserve. Let's remind them it's possible. And don't forget subscribing to Fractal Wisdom. This channel is for minds like yours, curious, open, and craving meaning beneath the noise. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. What's one thought you've been overthinking lately? One that just won't let go? Drop it in the comments. Sometimes just naming it is the first step toward peace. And who knows, your words might help someone else feel a little less alone. See you in the next one.